Hi everyone, it's TanyaMFK here with your 52 weeks of momentum lesson recap. This is week 21. If this is your first time, welcome. I'm Tanya Marie Figueres-Kreisinger, much more easily known as TanyaMFK. I'm a member of Benjamin Hardy's 52 Weeks of Momentum course, and I come here every week to just share what I'm learning and the insights I'm gaining. This is in no way a substitute for the actual course, with the main obvious reason being I'm not Benjamin Hardy. We also have a ton of resources that we get by being in the course and a wonderful group of a lot of people that I simply are not able to offer you. But if you did miss your chance to sign up, then you at least hang out with me and tag along with what I'm learning and get your own piece of momentum along the way. So as I mentioned, we are in week 21. And the big focus and shift, if you've noticed even over the last couple of weeks, has really come back to accountability. Accountability, reassessing, seeing where you are, and really holding yourself to that, right? So that's kind of where it stuck. And if you have been following me over the last couple of weeks, I mentioned that I realized as we were having all these discussions about accountability, I actually didn't really have much in my life. I don't have a 9-to-5 job. I don't have somebody looking over me. I don't have a lot of colleagues or anyone, really anyone to call me on my shit. So I realized, I said, my gosh, we were asked, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, we were asked, what do you want to do? What are these great plans you have? And the question that was reoccurring on each of these lists was, who will hold you accountable? And I was like, I don't have anyone. So instead of shrugging it off and being like, well, that sucks, I decided to go looking for it. I was like, that's it. I want to be better. I want to be the best that I can. So I'm going to go looking for it. So what better way to get out of your comfort zone than jumping into the 52 Weeks of Momentum group and asking 750 strangers if they want to be my friend. Okay, they want to be my accountability partner. So that was the big thing I did last week to try to bring in some accountability into my situation. Jim Rohn says, don't wish your situation was better, wish you were better. And that's what I'm at. Can I do it without an accountability partner? Absolutely. I've done this much thus far. But can I be better with one? I believe so. And that is why I've gone after it. So why is accountability such a big deal anyway, right? So isn't it just someone checking in on you or something? And honestly, this wasn't the first time it's ever been talked about in the group, but in the past when it had been talked about, I really thought, okay, accountability, someone's going to make sure I'm turning in my assignments, and as you've known, if you've been following along, we have a lot of different assignments and little exercises that we're to do and turn in. I didn't have a hard time doing that. I was a straight A student. I know how to turn in my homework, right? And so I kind of was like, I don't need an accountability partner. I'm doing the job. And then I realized I can actually be better. There's so much more that comes from it than just, did you turn in your homework? So let's talk about some of the benefits of accountability. And one of the first ones is we do better under observation. Whether we like it or not, we tend to perform better when we're being watched. And this can be in all different types of ways. It can create some nervousness, I guess, in situations as well, but we're so aware of our surroundings and what we're doing because someone's watching us, that we're more mindful ourselves. We're paying attention to each little movement and how it's going and if we're doing it right or if we're doing it weird or whatever, because we know someone's watching us, right? So this is a huge thing in accountability. When we know someone's paying attention, you're going to be more mindful of it. Now, whether that's better or worse, that's something you have to work out hopefully to perform best, but that is, we're more mindful, and that awareness alone is a huge step. And then another thing when we have someone involved is you get more honest feedback, right? It's easy for us to kind of swish-wash it any way we want. We can be hard on ourselves, be like, oh, I was terrible. I was awful at that. God, it was just the worst. And someone who's standing out looking at you and be like, you're nuts. You actually did a really good job. You might have flailed over here, over there, but you actually did pretty good. And then here's where you messed up, right? But someone outside of us can give us more honest feedback than we can of ourselves. And that works both ways. We can be like, I'm doing great. I'm doing fine. And we're like, well, actually, you might need some of this. But we need that. We need that, right? We are us. So we only see it that way. So it's so helpful to have somebody outside of us to be able to give that honest feedback from the outside. And the main reason, and this is another reason why accountability is so great, is because then your excuses won't work. We're really good at excuses, most of us. Why, this is that, or why we couldn't do something. And that's how we are where we are. So if we have goals to be better, then we need to do away with those. And it's much easier when we have somebody else who can see and say, all right, yeah, that's not a good one. That's a really bad excuse. And you need to do this. You're like, all right, okay. So those excuses won't work. And I think that's huge. And you also have somebody, and this is another reason why accountability is so great. You also have somebody call you on the stories that you might be telling yourself, right? So as you are setting up for a specific goal, you have things that have held you back for a reason. Let's say you're in sales or you're struggling with sales, and you might have been you may have been telling yourself a story for so long, like, no, nobody wants to hear from me. Nobody wants to buy that from me. Like, people are just so resistant. So you're telling yourself this story, yet you're telling your accountability partner you want to, make these sales calls, or you want to, make these actual sales. But they hear you. They're like, why do you keep telling yourself no one wants to hear from you then? Like, you got to get rid of that story. And you might not have even realized, like, holy crap, I'm telling myself this nonsense. No wonder I don't want to jump on the phone. So they can see the stories. They can go, wait, stop telling yourself that story. And a lot of times they are negative. They're usually, why you can't do something, or won't do something. No one wants to hear from me. I don't want to bother them. Are you bothering them? Are you really offering something that can help someone? Then it's not a bother. They get to say yes or no if they can need it at the time or whatnot. But you need someone who can tell you this stuff. You need someone else who can get in there and say, no. Those stories are crap. I used to have a mentor who's a little older. So he said, those are old tapes. You don't tapes anymore, right? But stop playing old tapes, Tanya. And man, I had a lot of old tapes. I didn't realize I was playing. And that's why they were old, right? That's why they were on tape. So yeah, someone in there involved that can call you on that stuff is huge. Again, accountability is a great thing. So another thing is it forces you to come through with your commitment. It forces you to stick with something, right? It forces you to stick with something. When I first went on my journey of weight loss many, many years ago, one of the biggest things that helped me succeed was having a workout partner. And there were two things about that. One thing was I don't even know why she was working out. I mean, I know why. It's good for everyone. She was the skinniest little girl. She was a dancer. She was phenomenal. But she was up for going to work out with me. It was like barely learning, struggling on like my first 5 minutes on the elliptical. And she came every morning. She was very consistent. She had to drop off her husband at work. And so she was always at my house. It was a very specific time. And so many mornings I would wake up and I would just be like, oh, I do not want to go to the gym this morning. I do not want to go. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go. I'm totally just going to call her. And then I knew she was probably already on her way to my house. She was, she was already doing everything. She was showing up. She was going to be there. I was going to interrupt her day. I was going to mess up her travel. I wasted her time going through traffic when she wouldn't have to. And so I was like, oh, I don't want to be that jerk. I don't want to be that person. So I'd stick with it. And I went and I did it. And I ended up losing a lot of weight that I needed to that year, and was the healthiest that I had ever been by the end of that year. Thankfully, because I had someone that kind of made me follow through on the commitments. And it wasn't her in a sense, right? She wasn't calling me saying, hey, you better follow through. But it was making a commitment to somebody, having someone else involved that pushed me to follow through with it. Right? So that's a huge, huge thing. It doesn't have to be this accountability partner should you go this route. It doesn't have to be, necessarily the coach who's going to be like, hey, come on, you can do it. But just you seeking that person and making a commitment at all pushes you to now follow through because now someone else is involved. It affects somebody else one way or another. Right? If you say, I'm going to cook something healthy or I'm going to cook a certain meal, that person's expecting that meal and you're like, no, I decided to, buy pizza. They might be bummed. You're like, you said you were going to cook. So again, however that works for you, helps you follow through with your commitments. And it also makes you create firm dates, right? For your things you want to accomplish. That's another thing with having someone else involved. You can't kind of be wishy-washy. You can't be like, well, when are you going to work out? Sometime this week. Well, it doesn't work. If you want that person to go with you, they need like a date. They can't just go on a whim if they don't, because they have their own life, right? So you need to give them a time frame. You need to give them usually a specific date and time is very helpful. So this is a simple thing that happens just by having someone else involved is it really makes you create deadlines or set times. So that's a huge benefit. Again, having this happen and having someone else involved also, you get to learn from them as well, right? Their successes, their failures, not always having to do it firsthand. They can say, hey, I did this today and it really, really worked well for me. Or, yeah, I've done that before and it was awful. Like, I don't suggest it. Sticking with this weight loss theme, it could be something as simple as like, yeah, I bought that protein shake before and it tasted terrible. I would suggest this one. Or whatever, right? It's just nice to have some, partner in crime. And it also prevents you from getting off course, right? Like letting little tiny detours turn into big off course situations, right? Because someone else can notice more so than you can. Because as I mentioned before, we're real good at kind of making excuses and stuff for ourselves. So it's easy when, again, sticking with the weight loss thing. So let's say you're doing the like, oh, okay, it's a special day. I can have, some cake today. And then the next day you're like, oh, well, it was a party at the office. So I took a little bit of this and it was a little bit of that. And you look back on your week, you're like, oh, I only did there was a few little things I kind of cheated on my, diet for. But the other person's like, do you realize all week you ate like crap? All week. And it's someone can catch it a lot sooner. It's easy when we're watching someone else, right? We all know that. It's so much easier to see somebody else and be like, oh, see, that's what they're doing wrong. Come on. Watching horror movies, anyone? Like, it's not even something I enjoy doing, but we all have been at some point where you're like, don't go upstairs. Don't do that. Why would you do that? Right? You don't even have a flashlight. Like, that's insane. It's so much easier when it's us looking at someone else, right? And that's the same for us. When somebody's watching us, it's so much easier for me. Like, no, you're messing up, and it's gonna turn into something big if you don't catch it now. So having someone else involved really helps us do that, right? So all of these things, all of these amazing reasons are such. Are exactly that, great reasons to get someone involved, to seek out an accountability partner. Now, if this isn't your thing and you're like, that just doesn't work for me, like it's just not going to work or it's not available, again, we can go back, are we making excuses, all that, but maybe it's just really not your thing, right? You're just like, that's not comfortable for me or whatever your reason is. There are a lot of ways to build in accountability for yourself. And as a matter of fact, really, in a lot of ways, we should be starting here. Like, how can we held up some sort of accountability? And this is how a lot of us come up with these grandiose goals and set them up and then don't follow through with them because we've never actually set up a system or anything for accountability. We just say, yeah, I want to do it. And then like kind of have a haphazard way of, plan of what we're going to do. And then we're like, oh no, it fell apart. Well, yeah, because you didn't really set up any accountability, any systems or anything for yourself. So the first thing you need to do, and if you haven't learned this already by going through all of these weeks in the course, you need to write it down. Write it down. Make it real by taking it from pen to paper. What are your goals? What do you actually want? Now, this is something, as we've talked about, you're going to visit often if you're paying attention. You're always going to revisit it, see what it is, what you want. What are your goals? And how are you going to achieve them? What are you going to do? Like, what is it? What's the specifics of it, right? And what are the obstacles? What are the obstacles? Because you're here for a reason, right? So something has kept you or held you back from whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So you should be relatively easy to be able to figure out, like, what are the things that have held me back? What are the obstacles I can anticipate? If it's the cake, then we know, okay, I do really good, but as soon as that cake comes up, I do it, and then from then on, I'm eating cake every day, right? That's the thing. Then you can go, okay, cake is the obstacle. How can I plan for those obstacles? And then write what your desired result is. What is it that I really want to end with? If this is my goal, what does that look like, right? So this is like a quick way of just going kind of over the SMART goals. If you're going to set a goal, you need to make sure that it's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, relevant, and time-based, right? So that's the SMART thing. But that's the point, but write them down. That is a huge part, is write them down. Because sitting there and putting it on your head, I have a hard time believing that makes it real. And I know there's some science out there and something that backs me up on this. You need to write it down. Write it down and make it real and make it clear. Be clear what your obstacles are going to be. Be clear how you're going to get around those obstacles. And then another version of writing it down, track it. You need to start tracking it. So if your goal is to, think of like a swear jar, right? If you have a swear jar, you're tracking it because every time you've sworn you threw in a penny or a dollar or whatever it was, big a commitment you're making. You can see it. You know it. There's a way to track it. If that jar gets full, you're actually not doing that great of a job, right? So some way or another, you need to track it because that which is measured can be improved. If you're not measuring it, you're not aware of how you're really doing it, you're not seeing any progress or lack thereof, you have no way to adjust your course. You have no way to say like, oh, I'm doing great, I'm going to keep it going, or this isn't really working, I need to do something different, right? And that's how a lot of people end up 2 weeks into the new year already off course. They're like, I'm going to do this great thing. And they don't really have a plan. They don't really track it. And they're like, oh, it wasn't really working. And they give up, right? So you need to have a way to track it, pay attention, because then you can also make adjustments as needed. So make sure you're tracking it and create a schedule. What is it? What is it? How is it going to work? When I decided that I wanted to also work on weight loss again this year, I had to make a schedule. I can just say, oh, I'm gonna lose weight. Oh, I'm gonna lose this much weight. I'm going to do these things. When am I gonna do these things? I have a workout schedule. I know exactly when I'm working out. I have specific goals. I track what I eat. I track my intake. I'm doing all of those things. And awesomely, I've actually lost some weight. So super excited about that. But it's because I'm doing these things that hold an accountability. I'm not guessing it. I'm not winging it. I'm actually making very specific steps to hold myself in that accountability to myself, right? So as I said, I want some outside accountability as well, but I've definitely instituted the internal accountability, and I already see the huge difference that that's making. And then within that, as you're doing all that, this may sound kind of weird and or easy, you need to be honest with yourself. It is so easy for us to bull ourselves and to just kind of either it's make it way bigger than it is or way less than it is. We need to be really honest with ourselves. There's no benefit in not writing down that piece of cake that you had because you're like, well, write it down. It's right. It still happened. Be honest with yourself. It is. And it wasn't the best maybe choice, right? And you can look at that and say, I did it. I'm not saying beat yourself up over it, but be honest with it wasn't the best choice and I need to make a change. Right? So be honest with yourself in all of this because you don't win by bullshitting yourself, right? You don't get anywhere by doing that. It's only you, so be honest with yourself and check in and make sure you know what you're doing. So the next one I have on here is create micro goals. So creating micro goals is huge. And again, the easiest thing is weight loss, guys. So I'm sorry, it's always coming back to weight loss, but just the easiest kind of thing to understand and concept to work with. I have this huge goal of like 50 pounds that I started with. That's what I want to lose this year, like baby weight, all that fun stuff. 50 pounds. 50 pounds seems really far away, right? My goal is like towards the end of the year. Like I anticipate being at my goal at the end of the year. So starting in January, that's really far away. So I have a goal of 1 to 2 pounds a week. That's my micro goal. I can see that every week. If I look each week and like, how far am I from 50 pounds? It seems pretty far. It's really far. But 1 to 2 pounds a week, I can measure that weekly, every week, every Sunday. I can see if I'm on track, if I'm where I want to be, if I need to adjust something, if I'm falling behind, if I need to step up, if whatever it is, if I just get really excited and like, oh, I can do more. The point is I have a micro goal. I have something smaller to see and obtain. And it feels good. Like, yeah, I'm on track. I'm doing great. So have micro goals. Another way to bring this in to accountability for yourself is to look at some like gamification models, right? There's a lot of apps and things out there that will allow you to put money, if money's the thing for you, right? Like most people, right? But if that works for you, where you're like, okay, I put $50 into this app, And if you don't make your goal, depends on the situation. I think they can track it or something. You lose it. They take it right out of your bank account. And I mean, you've set it up. You've said this is how it's going to work, and you lose it. Or you lose that. And this can be the other way. It can be rewards. You set up something, say, when I do this, or maybe you put money into something and say, every time I do this, we put this money here and I'm going to do this awesome thing, or whatever that is, right? You put something in that there's a risk for loss and a gain, for a reward, right? So put something in there. If that motivates you, then set it up. Right? Set it up and make it real. Don't just say, if I lose this weight, I'm going to go on vacation. Or if I lose this weight, I'm going to get that bikini, right? If that's the thing, then start putting money away towards that every time you meet that goal, or put the money aside already. Do something that makes it real. Okay. So that's another option. Also, open up to friends and family about your goals, right? Not everybody knows what you're doing. I know that's hard to believe. Facebook, everything, we kind of assume, well, I put it out there. Everyone knows what I'm doing. No, we don't. No, we don't. There's the algorithm. There's all these things. You don't even see half of your friends on Facebook because Facebook chooses who you see and all those things, right? And you may have missed that post when you wrote one time that you're really focusing on, weight loss this year. So not everyone knows. Tell them, say, hey, I'm doing this. I'm really excited. This is my goal. And tell them what accountability they can offer. Hey, if you notice I'm doing this, I would love it for you. I would love for you to call me out, or, don't let me do this, or whatever it is, right? Ask for it. Tell them, share your goals. People will be happy to support you. Friends, family, they love you. So do that. The other part is plan for success. I know it sounds like duh, so many people fail this part. Plan for success. How will you succeed? What are the things you need to do to succeed? Right? And we talked about that briefly by setting your goals in the beginning, but you need to actually set up, this is my success plan. This is how I will make sure I'm successful. So if you say, I'm, not going to eat bread, or I'm not going to do this, then don't have a bunch of bread in your house. Go and get rid of the bread. Go and replace it with other things. Set a plan for success. Also, plan for your obstacles. If you know something is a specific obstacle, what will you do? Now, we just said the bread, you can get rid of the bread. But say it's, again, going back to cake, you go to the party and you're like, you knew cake was going to be there. You know it's an obstacle. So do something to help yourself out. Plan for it. Bring your own healthy version of it that you can snack on, or visualize yourself not doing it. We've talked about this one before, so I don't want to beat that with a dead horse, but you need to plan for your obstacles. You need to prepare yourself to know how to get around it. Because if you knew how to do it, you wouldn't be where you are now, right? You're trying to do something different than where you are now. So you've succumbed to the obstacles this far. So now it's time to figure out how to get over them and plan for them. Yeah, right? This is how you set yourself up to be accountable to you. And finally, review your performance. So you put all these systems in place. You have the tracking. You have hopefully a person, right? Maybe someone else is involved. You've written it down. What have you done? You've gamified. You have micro goals. You're being honest with you. You've made a true commitment. Right? A true commitment. That's something else that's in there. To be accountable to yourself is to make a true commitment, because one of the themes, I'm going to throw this out there, one of the themes and the quotes that we hear often in this group and in this course is, if you're interested, you make excuses, circumstances, and reasons why you can't or you won't. Right? So I've heard this before a lot. It's I'm totally going to, especially in my 20s, I'm totally not going to drink anymore. I'm not drinking anymore, except for so-and-so's party and so-and-so's this, and then this is going on, or on Sundays. And you're like, how does that work? It's one or the other. You're making the commitment or you're not, right? So you make the commitment, it's done. There's no exceptions. This is the commitment. This is what it's going to be. So if you're interested, you're going to make excuses. Well, yeah, but on this, I like this. Okay, then you're not committed. If you're committed to it, you're committed, it's done. So make a commitment. Make that commitment. So now you've done all this, right? Got off track there. Now you've done all these things. Review it. Check in on yourself. How am I doing? Is this on track? Am I on course? And if you're not measuring it, you're not putting these weights, you have no way or no point of reference. So it's so important. Like for me, I can do it weekly with my weight goal loss. I can do, monthly with certain other goals that I've set. I can do quarterly in general. At least, at minimum, quarterly look back and say, where am I? Am I on track? Is this what I want? And adjust as needed. So these are ways to bring in accountability into yourself, holding yourself. And now you know all the benefits and reasons why it's awesome to get someone else involved as well and to reach out and to find that accountability. Okay, so accountability, yay, so exciting. And really that's it. And that was a lot. But go out there, find accountability and set it up for yourself one way or the other. If you really, really want to achieve something, whatever that something is, and I've yet to meet someone who's like, I have absolutely nothing in life I want to do, accomplish, or experience at all. So we all have something, right? We all have something. So if we really want it, these are the things we need to do. All of these things, the committing, the this, the figuring out, and all the benefits of putting these things in place. So go out and do it. Make it happen. If you like this, hopefully you got some gems from this, then click that subscribe button and you'll be notified when the next lesson comes up. If you want to take some of these lessons and really put them into your entrepreneurial journey, we take a lot of this focus and we talk about email campaigns and sales funnels and all of that fun stuff and how it can relate to the same items, how this can relate to the accountability and self-awareness, and all of this stuff actually does relate directly to our businesses. So if that sounds like something that works for you, definitely follow me at TanyaMFK on Facebook and Instagram. And thank you so much for hanging out. I will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.